Welcome to another Small Business Pivots, where we bring entrepreneurs from around the world to help you pivot and grow and scale your business. And like we do every week, we have special guests from around the world. But I know and you know that only the business owner can pronounce their name and their business and anything about them like they want it to. So I let you have the floor. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Daman Grewal. I'm based up in Canada here, so just a little bit north of you. And we run a platform called logisticssales.com, where our motto is financial freedom is available to anyone, regardless of where you live, what your background is, what your education level may be, or your financial level. So again, we want to show you that financial freedom is just a choice. And we try to break that mindset into you over our platform and through our episodes on a weekly basis. And
Fantastic.
it's free.
Well,
And it's
and it's
free.
what?
It's free.
Free. Wow.
It's
Okay. I
all
think
free. Yeah.
anyone that was fixing to hit stop listening, they're going to listen now. So, well, let's get started. So, I know a lot of our listeners, having talked to them, they like to know kind of a little bit of background about our guests just so they can relate to their story. Anything interesting before you started adulting that we should know how you kind of got into this?
Well, yeah, born and raised in Canada. Definitely went through some adversities growing up. I was a child of a single parent. And so, if anyone can relate that way, a lot of times in life, you're kind of just finding your way through it and just looking for opportunities and hoping that somebody's going to kind of pull you up along the way. And that's kind of how this thing kind of formed for me, anyways. But it's a lot of it was just going through trials and tribulations. One was just, again, financial hardships growing up. Second was, the judgment, and sometimes being just, having a colored skin kind of puts you in a different category where you're facing a little bit more adversity
Yeah.
than maybe you shouldn't have to, right? But, there's always those judgments, regardless of what the color of your skin is, but you do get passed on judgments. People try to put you into your place. People try to limit you in different ways, whether it's financially, education, anything, right? There's all these things that we've all faced throughout life. And yeah, I faced it through my employment with different companies. One of my first jobs, somebody told me that, hey, Damon, no one's going to hire you in this industry. You're nuts for asking for a raise. and
Yeah.
so and so you get all these sorts of odd experiences in life, and then it's about, okay, how do I overcome it? And how do I make sure that none of this stuff really sticks into me? And, the ultimate achievement for me was just realizing that financial freedom is always in our own hands. Like, no, there's no, we're taught in society that our teachers are the ones that are going to dictate our grades to us. They're going to tell us how we're going to behave. And we're told after that our employer is the one that's responsible for giving us those raises or those bonuses or controlling our financial future. And us having to wait 20 years in an organization just to feel financially free.
Yeah.
And so we're told all these myths, right? And then when you realize, like, whoa, that was like totally not it. And, it was just a choice that we all have. But sometimes we get so conformed into thinking that this is the way things have to be. And there's all these things that kind of entice us into it. Like, I know in the US, it's like these 401ks. So many people will not leave their job because they're so tied into this 401k. It's like the carrot that's being dangled in front of them the whole time. And person, every time they think about achieving or making any decision for themselves, this carrot is waving in front of them, and they're like, I'll just wait another 10 years. I don't really like my job, but I'll tough it out.
Yeah.
And so some of these choices and mindsets is where I want to shift and show people that we all have choices and we can feel comfortable with those choices. And when we see how much mental stress is being occurred at a workplace nowadays, and I think it's over 50% of the people that have been surveyed have experienced some sort of mental health episode at work, or it's work-related stress somehow, right? And that's quite a bit. And when I see that, I think that the stat in the States was like 84%.
Wow.
And when I see, okay, well, how many people are suffering from mental health, and how many people are suffering from maybe even just social media health, that type of, the shiny object syndrome. and thinking, hey, I need to have everything right now. And then we see large corporations going on strike, and we see all these unions of people just saying, well, I want more, I want more. And then there's like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, hold on, like someone's got to produce something
Right.
for us to be able to have something. And do we all forget about that aspect of it? Like, I talk about it as like a cookie jar. Everybody wants a cookie out of the cookie jar.
Yeah.
But who's going to bake them?
Who's going to do the work? Yeah.
Yeah. So someone's got to keep creating that stuff. And so I think people lose track of that fact that someone has to be able to produce, or a company has to be able to sustain itself in order for it to be able to give employee raises, create those opportunities, maintain those jobs, maintain the standards in the workplace. And I know, Michael, you've been in entrepreneurship yourself, and man, all that pressure ends up on your shoulders, right? You got to provide for everybody. It's not just your family you got to look after, but how many different families do you have to look after?
Yeah.
And who's helping?
Exactly. Yeah. Where does the support come from? Well, you own other businesses as well. You mentioned growing up in a one parent home. How did you get into entrepreneurship first?
Oh, it was not a choice for sure. And this is something I just want to make clear. I grew up watching all these TV shows where that boss was always the hated person, right? And so I'm like, I never want to be like that guy. And so never thought about going into entrepreneurship. But there was just, it was just having bad experience after bad experience after bad experience in employment that led me to saying, okay, hey, I just can't do this anymore. I couldn't work for anybody else anymore. And the only other option was another gentleman that would every lunch hour would be like, hey, Damon, let's go open up a company. I'd be like, no, man, I'm not doing it. He's like, no, let's go open up a company. And every time he'd be like, let's go for lunch. And he just keep putting this into my mind.
Yeah.
And I knew every time that I go for lunch with this guy, he was only going to say, hey, let's open up a company. And one day when I had enough from all my employers, I was finally like, that seems like the only choice now, because I just couldn't work for any more money anymore. There was no amount of money that somebody could pay me. And this is going back to like 2006 is when I opened up my first business. And someone had come along after the last employment place I was at and offered me, at that time, for me it was a lot of money, but $80,000 salary, and offered me a brand new Mercedes and showed me like these really nice homes in this, nice area. And I was kind of tempted and like, it kind of looks kind of good. But I was like, you're so sweet and thank you so much for the offer. But, I just can't work with anybody anymore, and my conscience wouldn't allow me to. That whenever I worked at a place, I just had to be, again, straight-laced, honest, by the book. There something inside me just had to be in alignment always. I wasn't comfortable with lying to anybody, or any of these type of things that, if I saw shady practices happening in the industry, I was like, hey, you know what? We need to have more training there. There needs to be more investments put into some of these aspects of the business, because it's not fair to the person that's working there. And then I used to just see mistreatment. Sometimes the bosses or the supervisors would get mad at the employee, but I'm like, well, employee wasn't trained properly. How can you get mad at them? It's not common sense unless you train them. And so it's, creating safety policies, procedures, SOPs, all that stuff is important when it comes to business. But then you can't really fault the business owner because there's no manual for business owners.
I wish there were. So, it would make it so much easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and there's a ton of laws, a ton of regulations, a ton of compliance, and then they expect entrepreneurs to just know it all.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so that's one thing that we have to kind of take into consideration. And Michael, you're doing a great job as being a coach for this, because entrepreneurs, they don't have the roadmap, right? They're guessing. A lot of times we're guessing as to what we need to be doing next. Yeah. And then we're being taught lessons as we're going through businesses, which, again, how do we learn those lessons? Nobody taught us in school. Right. They kind of teach us theories, but nobody pulls out, the labor code and says, here's every single thing in the labor code that you have to watch out for. And hold on, you're responsible not only for your actions, but you're responsible for all your employees, right? If they say something to somebody else, now you're responsible for it.
Yeah.
If they do some sort of actions and misbehave, hold on, now that comes back on you too, right?
Yeah.
Oh, and hey, by the way, there's nuclear verdicts in the US where you can lose almost 30, 70, 80 million dollars in one shot. Hold on, how am I supposed to do this? Hold on,
Yeah. Well, it is amazing thinking of most of our upbringings, how there were boundaries, right? We were told what we could and couldn't do, referring back to kind of like teachers and giving you grades and parents, yes or no. But then we can't wait to get out of the house. I think if most people are like myself, when I was 16, 17, I couldn't wait to get out of the house, right? To do my own thing and not be told no. But then I got outside of the house and I couldn't think for myself. I was exactly what people raised me to believe who I was. My box was already there. And so, when we go into the business ownership world, all of a sudden there's not a box again because there are no instructions.
Well, it's a box that we put ourselves in after that.
Yeah.
So there's still a box, right? And the box is limited to our mindset. And so if you've ever heard of John Maxwell, and he talks about the
Yeah.
law of the lid, the business is only going to go as far as our thinking capacity, and we're going to have to break through somehow to be able to create a bigger box. And how do we create a bigger box? We have to get out of our comfort zones, everything else. You kind of heard that
Yeah.
before, but yeah, we create our own boxes. I created my own, and after my first business, I got comfortable, and the only capacity of mental thinking that I had at that point was, hey, you know what, Damon, just get the family, get the home, get the car.
Yeah.
And I was living this YouTube dream where I was able to even do my business sitting at home. And I'm like, hey, I'm living the dream right now. I'm only, I think I was 30 years old at the time. And I'm like, I have everything, like everything's paid off and there's good cash flow coming in and living life. But then you keep looking at these four walls around you. The spouse at the time didn't want to go on vacations. The kids were in school. Right? So you're kind of like, well, hold on. I thought about this whole, having this financial freedom and traveling the world, and the VoIP phones came out, so then you could do your business from wherever you wanted to.
Right.
And so I thought, like, hey, I was going to be living this dream life of just full flexibility. But then you look around you, and you're like, I got responsibilities. I got kids. I got, I got,
Yeah.
I got a spouse that doesn't want to, doesn't have the same thought process as I do. And then you just say, well, is this what life was supposed to be about? And so then it was, again, creating that box to become bigger and saying, hold on, there's more to life than just what I think at this moment. So let me go hit these next couple levels. And, one of those things was just wishing that I had done more at work, because, we kind of worked hard for the first couple of years, got really successful at it. And then it was like, why did I stop?
Mm.
I hit this comfort level. It was like, why did I?
Yeah.
And so I had this inner desire to say, okay, you know what? I want to just push a little bit more. I want to actually go do the things that I probably should have done the first go around. And let me go try it again. And I was fortunate enough to be able to start another business where I was able to do that. And at the same time, still have my other business. And a lot of times sometimes it's the partners that we get set with. And so this is something, maybe a life lesson for everybody too, or even a business lesson, but our energies get tied to the person that we are with, whether it's a business partner or a life partner. So life partner, again, didn't want to travel, didn't want to have that whole, freedom thing. And it's like, which is fine, 100% fine, right? Other side, my first business partner didn't want to grow beyond the point that he was already at. Said, I'm comfortable. This is it, right? We both had really young kids. We're both focusing on the families, and that was kind of our priorities. Was just our family base, and just running the businesses that we already had and run them really well. But there was no mindset of expansion, and so when your partner gets stuck, it kind of puts you into that same boat too, because now it's unfair for me to push when this one just says, hey, I just want to kind of hang out here. So it's, as much as you're going to try to push, it's going to pull you back unless you get really creative. And
Yeah.
so again, luckily I got, another opportunity, and we were able to kind of achieve a lot of success, and for me, it was like the first time around, I didn't really do the door-to-door sales. And I was like, I really want to go and just give it my all, and I just, have still more sales in me, and I want to just go giver. And so
Yeah.
I did. I went door to door to every single industrial area multiple times. And I just said, hey, I just need to get this out of my system. I have to, I just need to do this. And there's things inside of us that we want to do. And
Yeah.
there's, and it's not really the monetary reason for it, but just to say the fact of just saying that, hey, it was in me and I wanted to do this and now I'm doing it. And so, yeah, and then just building the second company, we hit the profit 500, growth 500. And it was just a fun ride just to get into those situations where we were able to grow by, not a couple 100% a year, but, a couple 1,000% over a couple years. And so there's that saying, you overestimate what you can do in a year, but you underestimate what you can do in 5 years. And that's usually that 5-year mark is where the business really gets going. And I've experienced that in multiple businesses, and knowing that, yeah, first couple of years you're kind of just getting everything ready, and then the next couple of years where you start getting this acceleration, and that's where it becomes fun. But then, same things. The other business came, and partner didn't want to grow anymore. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
now I have, and then I started again multiple other businesses where I took a stab at software. I took a we're doing this, the logisticsales.com, where again we're providing free education, again just to help people. And there's a part where we would just want to give back, because we've been fortunate enough to be able to experience it ourselves, and saying, okay, well, how do we allow others to experience the same thing that we have, and how do we support and mentor the younger generation, so we build communities instead of having people grow up with a harsher mindset. And sometimes we kind of talk about this with social media, is that social media is really showing people the shiny object syndrome, whether it's how you're supposed to look, or what you're supposed to have in life, where you're supposed to be in life. And so we want to break down a lot of those myths as well, and just say, hey, you know what? Don't worry about what other people are doing. Let me teach you what you can do and what you hold in your hands. And let me just open you up to that in a different way, where it's not about what can I have, it's about what can I give.
Hmm.
And so we want to do it in a way where you can feel good about the stuff that you do. And that's the way that we teach our sales, is to say, you know what, hey, you know what, let's slow this down a little bit, and let's kind of go back and say, hey, sales is not the Wolf of Wall Street, but it's about, how can I be in service to my neighbor? How can I be in service to my community? How can I be in service to the other entrepreneurs that are along this journey as well? How do we do it? By loving each other. How do we do it? By supporting each other. So again, that healthy mindset, a place from the heart where it comes from within. And it's not about, hey, you got to do it this way. You got to open up your own podcast, man. Like, I'm going to teach you to do this. It's not, it's like, hey, I went into my business because I fell into it. I knew a little bit about it. But I don't expect you to do the same thing, right? I'm not going to sit there and tell you what you got to do. I'm going to say, hey, there's lots of opportunities out there. And I'm going to teach you how to find those type of opportunities that resonate with you. And so in one of our episodes, one of the first things that we teach people is like, hey, you know what? Just look at your own community, go on Google Maps, zoom out. And you're going to realize how many people are just running home-based businesses right in your own neighborhood, right? And how many people are, and you know this because you're teaching, you're helping these guys.
Yeah.
And then there in the US, there's 35 million small to medium-sized businesses that exist right now. Okay. And then we also know 5 years from now, half these guys aren't even going to exist. 50% of them go under in 5 years. And so you say, okay, well, hey, there's, a good portion of companies that need help. And then, hold on, can we teach people to help them? Or is everyone out for themselves? Or can they learn to work together to build each other up? And Michael, you've probably seen this, and maybe you could back me up on this, and hopefully we could talk about this. But how many companies do you see that need help? How many entrepreneurs have you seen that actually need help? But they don't realize that they could create structures where other people are looking for opportunities. Everyone's looking for more money, right? Like everyone's looking for that financial freedom. Of how many people in America, 61% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. 61%, 61 to 64, depending on which study you look at. And you say, hold on, we live in one of the greatest countries in the world and we're living paycheck to paycheck? Like this is, Donald Trump comes out, this is the greatest economy in the world. Like,
Yeah.
hold on, like why is 61 to 64% living paycheck to paycheck?
Yeah.
Why are 50% of small businesses going out of business in 5 years? I thought we live in the greatest economy of all time here. Hold on. What are we teaching people? Maybe we
Yeah.
need to go back to the education and that foundation to say, hey, you know what? Not everyone has to be like, I need to own everything. I need that 100% of that grape, and we try to teach people you can own 100% of a grape or 10% of a watermelon, right? 10% of the watermelon, hey, that's a lot of, that's a lot bigger portion.
Yeah.
You can hold on to this. The tighter you hold it, you know what happens? It won't stay, right? There's that saying where try to hold sand in your hands and hold it as tight as you can, and it's probably not going to remain there.
Right.
And then we see that, hold on, you know what? When people get into this mindset of greed, of businesses usually don't survive. Selfishness, right?
Yeah.
It's probably one of the leading causes of destruction within any company,
Yeah.
right? It's like
Wh-
the ego.
What we talked about you being an entrepreneur,
Mhm.
and I feel the reason why that's important, and you kind of hit the nail on the head, is you have the experience. You know what it's like. You've lived the trials and tribulations growing up. You've also had a different mindset shift. And so that becomes more beneficial to people when someone's talking from experience. Just like me as a coach, I've owned businesses, many have not. And so I wanted people to hear that you're teaching from experience, and that holds weight.
For sure. And again, it's how do we teach people the good? How do we teach people and for me, like the biggest thing is that alignment within. It's like it needs to feel good inside here. And the more people that feel good inside here, like we're just gonna make such a beautiful, global community out of it. When people are just feeling good and they all want it, and they all realize that when we help each other, we all grow together.
Yeah. Yep.
Right? And growth is one of the leading things to create happiness in our lives. And so when we're growing, we're usually happier because we're achieving new things. We're in a discovery phase, especially when we're doing it with each other. Right? It's that community building of saying, hey, you know what? I don't have to be at this alone. A lot of entrepreneurs think that they're just at it alone, and when they realize that, well, man, that's just a mindset. Hold on, like it doesn't have to be. Right? There's a lot of solopreneurs out there, but it doesn't have to be. Right? It's like,
Yeah.
can we open up the door to just allow more people to come in? Are we willing to create that opportunity? And again, we can create opportunities where it's not going to cost you anything as an entrepreneur. You can create structures just based on saying, hey, you know what? If we achieve, X, Y, Z results, yeah, hey, you know what? We could share in that. Because I'm only making X amount of dollars now, but if we make, Y, Z over here, I'll share that with you. Why not? Right? Like, hey, man, yeah, we can do that together. Yeah, ain't no risk to me as an entrepreneur. Maybe a little bit of time and effort to mentor you. But if I mentor you, you're taking on that risk as well about, hey, we only earn an income if we generate together, and say, hey, maybe there's an opportunity here. Right? 35 million businesses in the US. How many get made every year? How many go under every year? Imagine if we start helping each other.
Yeah, those are all valid points. I want to talk about, so it's logisticssales.com for our listeners. Let's talk about the process of how this works, what you offer. There's a lot of good stuff on your website, but I'd like to hear you kind of share the story behind it.
Sure. One of the first things that we're working on is just showing you the opportunities. And so I talked about a little bit about that as well, the zooming out on Google Maps, looking at what's around you. But then it's also saying, okay, well, let's expand that mindset. It doesn't have to be that you're doing business exactly where you're based out of. Right now, I'm in Canada, you're in the US. We're still communicating, we're still having a conversation, we connected, we're still making it work. Right. So then we realize, okay, well, yeah, we don't have to think in just our neighborhood. We could think in our city. We could think in our state. Now we could expand to the country. We could expand to neighboring states, neighboring countries. Like they're just expanding that mindset and saying, okay, well, what do I want to create? So we're going through a visualization process, and a mind expansion process is what we're trying to teach people. Then we're also trying to say, well, hey, sales is one of those major components that every single business needs. There's not a business that could survive without a sales component, even if you're a charity. Even a charity is going to need some sort of sales component. And then we're also teaching you, well, hey, you know what? You don't have to be a salesman. You probably already have these skills. Can you communicate? Have you ever taken a photo on your phone and posted it somewhere? That's sales, right? Have you ever done any customer service? Have you ever asked your friends to go outside and play ball with you? That's sales, right? So
Yeah.
you already have the skill sets. It's just a matter of learning how to monetize it. And so what we're trying to show you is that, through the first couple episodes, we're just trying to expose you to some of these opportunities and starting to get your mind going to say, okay, hey, you know what? Is it for me? Right? Or hold on, is there any other opportunity for me? I can build up other skills and trades. All that's going to increase my value, right? So we're going to start showing you that, hold on, who's really in control of your financial future? We're going to start showing you that it belongs to you. And when we show you the opportunities of how to look at it as a value perspective. And one of the first graphs that we show you is one of entrepreneurship and one of an employee. An employee is the one where I kind of talked about, here, Damon, I'll give you an $80,000 salary. And I'm just going to kind of keep you hovering in that area, right, for the rest of your life. And it's going to go up in small increments. So that line is looking like this. Entrepreneurship line, sales line might start a little bit lower, and it might stay there for a while, right? But usually what we show is like after the 18 months, it starts to kind of skyrocket like this, because once you start, there's a pain point in the beginning because it's a new skill you're learning. So when you're learning this skill, yeah, it takes a little bit of time. But if you find the right opportunity, that is going to equate to exponential growth in your future. It doesn't have to be 2%, 3% a year. It could be whatever you want it to be. Right? As long as you find the right opportunity. And that's what we want to teach you is, okay, how do you source these opportunities? How do you take advantage of these opportunities? And again, like when we do personal development, we kind of learn different skills and trades about doing this little workshop in our mind. But it's all about visualization. Some people call it manifestation. But it's about whatever you can visualize, you'll be able to create it if you can see yourself doing the steps. And so every time we have an episode, what we're trying to do is slowly help you build those steps in your mind so you can see it for yourself. And again, it's not about what's Damon telling me to do. It's like, no, it's, well, what's resonating with you? We're going to give you a bunch of different stuff to consider, but it's about you ultimately saying, okay, hey man, that little part there, that's resonating with me. Let me go explore that, because everything that we teach is saying, okay, hey, it has to come from inside here. Otherwise, it's just robotic, and robotic doesn't create relationships. It doesn't create happiness. Robots are just robots. Like they're not meant to have emotions, right? But if you want a fulfilling life, then let's bring some life into you, right? Let's see what's really exciting you inside, and let's explore that, because that's going to be a lot better than what I try to tell you to do, right? And so it's just saying, like, here, let's just try it, and maybe you could be exposed to some of these opportunities, and it may resonate with you. And even if you thought that sales was like that slimy, I'm going to push everything on you type of mentality, is like, well, hey, let us change that, because that's horrible. Nobody wants to be trying to sell you something that you don't want, right? But it's like, hold on, if we're just helping people become better at providing solutions, then how can we take a look at sales in a different perspective, in a different light, where if we can make people healthier, or help them succeed in their businesses, or create these, whatever it is that people want in life, and be able to create these pathways for them, then Aren't we going out and serving and doing a justice to ourselves and community and globally? Are we going to feel good and fulfilled about living a purposeful life?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And then who's the creator of that? It's a choice.
What do you
It's
what do
truly
you
a
think
choice.
so there's some people that don't seem to have a lid on their capabilities, their possibilities, their opportunities. But for the majority of us, we have a lid. And what I say by that is for most people, they have a cap, right? Let's say maybe their parents lived in a 1,500 square foot house. If I get in a 2,000, I've made it, I've made it. But then there's other people that they're like, oh no, I want a 10,000, there's no stopping. There's no limit to them. What do you feel with the people that you've worked with? What do you feel that limit is? Why some people have that lid that Maxwell talks about, and there's just a few from time to time that they just don't. They just go for it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to just do with our environment, first of all, right? One has to do with just what are we brought up around? What type of mindset are people talking about around us? What are we listening to? Right. So again, I grew up listening to maybe a lot of rap music as well. And a lot of it, and at the time, was just all about oppression and then us getting out of it, right? Started from the bottom, now we're here, that type of
Yeah.
thing. And so yeah, we always used to think that we're always at the bottom, right? So it's changing our mindset a little bit. So our environment, regardless of what we're listening to, who we're hanging around, is actually dictating what we're gonna do. So if someone says, "Hey, Michael, you're working two jobs, like you're nuts, man. How about work-life balance?" Man, like
Yeah.
go and they're telling you this stuff. What do you think's getting into your mindset? It's saying, "Well, hey, man, I'm just gonna do my one job. I'm not gonna go for anything more, right? Because like I'm going to just get ridiculed." Some people are just scared of judgment. So if you've been judged for anything in your life, now if you try to take something and do something different, and your fear of success is that judgment piece. What if I try something and I fail? What if I can't do it? So what's your mind saying to you when you're thinking about pushing past something? And a lot of people sometimes have to experience pain, some sort of pain point, and what that pain is really trying to tell us is like, hey, something needs to shift within us, and our we're experiencing some sort of level of pain because it's trying to tell us that we're supposed to be doing something different, right? So if we don't eat something properly, what our body's telling us, right? Like, hey, man, you might not be eating the right things,
Mm-hmm.
right? So same thing happens when it comes to other parts and different aspects of our life. So whether we get pain from other people's comments, whether we get pain from not having the financial freedom to be able to buy something that we want at the time, right? Or furnace breaks down. Now all of a sudden we got repairs, and now we're like worried about our bills. Well, that's a pain point, but again, can that be avoided if we were to make proper decisions from the beginning and saying, hey, you know what, instead of my car breaking down and me having to worry about how to fix this thing, maybe I can start taking control of my financial future ahead of time and not waiting for a pain point to happen. But a lot of people, we don't even know that we have a lid on ourselves. Even when we are experiencing pain, we blame it on the world instead of taking accountability inside here. And so that's a part of us that we have to kind of let go, is that ego mind is always going to create these stories for us and blame it all on whether it's our teachers, our parents, or somebody around us, our employer, our boss isn't paying me enough.
Yeah.
People are going to look for any which way, the government, right? People are going to
Yep.
look for any different situation to say, I'm paying too many taxes, man. Like
Yeah.
there's so many attitudes that come out when you hear about why people aren't where they need to be. But what that is just saying, okay, well, I just need to think differently to figure this out. There's an answer for everything, right? It used to be that people used to talk about, hey, I can't get out of the hood, right? And they didn't realize that if they just walk over 5 blocks this way, that they're out of the hood,
Yeah. Yep.
right? And it's like, oh man, I grew up in the hood. I grew up in one of the worst cities in America or in Canada. Happens up here too, right? So
Yeah.
we have people that I don't know how. Like, but then I go, okay, well, where's this hood you keep talking about? Because like, have you ever spoken to your neighbors? They're the most beautiful people out there. That's the real reality of what's really outside. Is so many people get get this thought process of how, again, they're alone, how they live in a dangerous area or they live in a place that they can't thrive. But then when they go out to reality, and this is, again, a lot of it is because it's news based, right? If you're listening to too much news and you're listening to environment, right? So that's our environment, is what are we putting inside our mind? You put enough positivity in there, now you're off to the moon.
Yeah. What would
Right?
you
Like,
say? I know
now
it.
everything's possible.
I know it probably depends on severity of trials and tribulations growing up and other influences, but what would you say is a healthy transformation? In other words, lifting that lid for most people. Is that like immediately? Is it 3 months, 3 years, 10 years? I mean, what can someone really realistically think?
I think it's just taking the small step, right? Again, it depends on where you are. And a lot of what we teach over at Logistics Sales is, again, small step is, if you have a computer or a phone, just zoom out of Google Maps and just see what's around you, right? Like it doesn't have to be a huge step. And after that, it's like, okay, well, even if you're one of your neighbors is operating a business, maybe just knock on the door one day and you say, hey, you know what? I've been looking at business opportunities. Can I talk to you? Maybe do that with like 5 or 10 different places and see who's willing to have a conversation. But then also think to yourself as well, like, okay, what can I offer in that situation too? How am I going to make that ask? How genuine can I be in that ask? And when we are in a place of speaking from the heart and a place of giving, right? So don't just go to someone's house and say, hey, I want all your information, right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, okay, hold on, what can I offer? What can I offer you? How can I help you? Go into in a place of service, and then make that ask about, hey, you know what? I just want to learn and want to see what I could do to maybe help your business out. Maybe I can cut your grass for you. If I'm taking 20 minutes of your time, maybe I can cut the grass for you. Um, but again, it depends on where you are and where you want to get to. Everyone has that next step that they already know. There's something inside you that's already telling you what that next step is. And so I really want people to kind of listen to what's happening inside of here, right? Like people know, I gotta clean my room, I gotta make my bed. Like, there's
yeah,
there's things that are automatically coming into you. And if someone's listening to you, Michael, like they're already in that mindset of, yeah, hey, I'm looking at business growth, right? So you already know, okay, they're looking for some sort of growth, finding out what that little piece is, just to help them with that next step. And that next step is just that little piece to give them a little bit more confidence. And I believe that the universe is going to give you signs that when you are in alignment with something that you want to be doing, you're going to get some sort of feedback. There's always feedback loops,
hmm,
and you're going to get some sort of feedback that's going to say, hey, you're on the right path. Hey, I'm really glad you came to my house today to ask me about my business, right? Even if someone tells you that, that means you're on the right path. If you ask somebody that you're going to be doing this, and someone says to you, like a parent or a friend that says, oh wow, that sounds like a great idea, you're probably on the right path. Share what you want to be doing, see what type of feedback comes back, right? But do it in practical steps that are easy for you to do, right? Based on where you are. And again, everyone's going to be at a different level, so I'm not going to sit here and tell you that, hey, this is what you got to do, man. But
yeah,
it's like, hey, well, let's see where you are. Maybe you just want to attend a Toastmasters class to see and work on your communication skills. It's a very supportive environment, and it's all over the world. Maybe you just want to go to the rec center to be around more healthy people. Maybe you just want to go to church, right? Why don't you get some positivity in you if you're not feeling that great? Find a place to volunteer, see who you can network with, right? So it's saying, okay, well, how can I change my environment to start getting into that positivity, to start opening up those doors of opportunity? And watch our program. There you go.
well,
There's an
I
easy one.
yeah, I share this example just for a voice of hope and encouragement to our listeners, because I learned many years ago there's a prominent figure here in our state that just happened to be at the car wash I was at. And I kind of made the mistake of going up to him and I said, I'm surprised to see you here. And what I meant in the back of my head was I figured he'd have someone do that for him. And his response was, why would you say that? Everybody's got to get their car washed, right? So that kind of broke the ice. And long story short, he said, I really appreciate, we sat there and talked for 20 minutes. Prominent, wealthy businessman. Everybody knows this person. And he said at the end, thank you for talking to me. Most people just either want a picture or look the other way, but not many people talk to me. And I thought that was interesting that just ever since then, that broke the ice for me approaching someone just to reach out to them, right? Be that go giver. And because you never know, here he was, no one talks to him because they're either afraid of him or afraid he won't give them the time of day or something. But I just want that to encourage everybody that they have feelings too.
100%. And that's, yeah, again, this is just going back to that mindset shift. How many people are thinking the exact same thing, Michael, about I can't approach somebody, I don't want to take someone's time. They're not going to listen to me. I don't feel valuable enough. And this is one of the things, like, even when we started our program, we were doing it privately for a little while with our companies. And we just realized, again, the demand was so great, we ended up doing a bigger platform. But then what we realized there is that there was people around the world that could barely speak English. But you know what, Michael? They were having meetings with the largest corporations in the US. I was sitting in on those meetings. And you know what? The people on the other side were listening. The people in the big corporate offices in the US that you think you can't approach, you know what? They were listening to a guy that could barely speak English. And they were listening so intently and giving positive feedback of saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, if the messaging makes sense. And, the guy was really good at the email side of it, just wasn't good at the verbal side of it.
Yeah.
And again, it was, so we're always helping people kind of break through those mindsets of saying, hey, you know what? Yeah, it's just people, man.
Yeah.
You could talk. If you realize that people are just people and you stop building these filters about all these things that we're taught in society, again, we're taught that, hey, we may not be as equal as the guy, as, the president of the US, maybe. Right. But, Obama likes to pick up a basketball and shoot hoops just like you do.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, hey, man, we're all human and we can connect on those levels. And the thing is, entrepreneurship and these titles that we get as, whether it's CEO, executive, and they're just titles, they don't mean anything. We're still human at the end of the day. If someone's trying to use their title to belittle you, that's because their ego is so inflated, but it's not a true version of a human being.
Yeah.
And when we realize that, the human to human connection, we all are made in that manner, that, again, when we're taught things, and we're taught this in every culture and religion, is a form of love thy neighbor. And what does that truly mean when we look at it in that perspective? It means there's no difference between me and you. It means we're there to be together in whichever form that may be. And when we understand that, hey, you know what? If we can just have more compassion for each other and actually understand, like, what does that really mean, right? That it's community building, family building. Is saying, hey, we are one global family. And so when we create differences, the difference is, again, some of it's there in the value perspective, but as a human being, like, you're just as valuable as anybody else. And being an entrepreneur, like, my companies are nothing without my employees. The company will fail to exist if I don't have employees. So every single person that comes into that platform or comes into that business is important as just as anybody else. And if someone's telling you otherwise, then that's their problem. It's not your problem, right? Mm-hmm. Because you are just as valuable as anybody else on the whole team, right? And we see this in the power play. We were talking about hockey earlier. You're down one guy, like, hey, man, you're at a disadvantage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So just every single person is going to play an important piece, regardless of whatever team you play on. And, when we look at it as a global community, like, you're on the global team. And if we're down a guy, like, hey, we're all down a guy. And so we're all going to have to pick up the pace, right? But that's the whole thing about just saying, hey, you know what? Let me lift you up until you get stronger, and then you can lift me up, right? Or you can lift the next guy up. But if we do it together, then again, it's going to take a lot less energy, but we're all going to have a great time, doing it.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
enough to go around. There's always enough to go around.
Well, if everybody heard your message around the world today, it would be a better place because I truly believe that mindset and helping others is essential, especially owning a business and controlling your financial future. And to give everybody just a little bit of encouragement, one of my favorite quotes is discomfort means we're growing. In other words, first step is get out of your comfort zone, take that next step, and then go to your website. And I know there's a lot of people that are interested in maybe following you as we wrap up. Where's the best place to find you, follow you, speak with you?
Yeah, definitely follow us on logisticssales.com. We have worksheets that go along with every episode after the second or third episode. So you're really doing a lot of introspection to find out your skill sets, find out your alignment. So we're really trying to help you with the inner work of for you to discover who, what a beautiful person that you may be and what amazing skill sets that you have and how you can leverage those skill sets to achieve anything that you want in life. And we're happy to help you along that process. We're still early in our journey, so early enough that we can actually help guide you a little bit better as well. So if you reach out to us on any of our platforms, which are located on the bottom of our website, you'll find us on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook. I think I mentioned all of them. YouTube.
YouTube.
Uh, YouTube, yep. And so if you reach out to us in the comment sections, we love to do some one-on-ones on with people, 20-minute sessions just to help you with that, just a little next step if you are feeling stuck. But what I would recommend is, go to the platform. It's completely free. Try to download some of the worksheets. Each episode is only about 15, 20 minutes, sometimes a little bit longer. But if you just take the time to do some of the worksheets, we'll help you out with some of the steps if you are stuck. And hopefully, you are on your way to your financial journey and an amazing life that's ahead of you.
That's fantastic. Well, it's a wealth of information, and you're a blessing to many, especially offering this for free to those who might need it or want it. Any last business advice? I always wrap up with a question. If you were in front of an audience of small business owners, entrepreneurs, different seasons of business, different sizes, what's one thing that's applicable to all of them? It could be a book, a quote, or just one last tidbit of information.
Yeah, I would just say believe in yourself. Have that self belief. Believe that whatever is in your mindset is going to come to fruition down the road. So dream big, right? For anyone that again, if you're not having dreams right now where you see yourself in a lot, a bigger picture down the road, dream big. That was one mistake that I kind of made. I didn't dream big enough from the get go, and learning that having bigger dreams, there's a higher power out there that wants to get us there, and if the only person that's keeping us stuck in life is ourselves. So figure out how to move past all this noise. Like personally, myself, I didn't even want to ever be socially speaking. I was so scared of how I sound and what people are going to perceive me as because
Yeah.
of my childhood growing up, that I was like, man, I was always judged, and for me to break past every single fear point, not wanting to be an entrepreneur, not wanting to public speak. But every time I pass one of these things that I don't want to do, it leads me to something even better. And, again, just imagine the life that you're supposed to be living, that you could be living if you were to face your fears and to move past them, as long as you're not hurting anyone along the way. And just remember that, like, that's the whole thing about seeing if it's for you. Make sure if, like, just say, okay, if I public speak, is that going to hurt me in any way? And if you say, well, hey, I'm only going to get better at it, then understand taking that first step is a step that we can take, because it's about thinking about that 5-year version of us down the road where we're only getting better at what we're doing. Like again, for me, I'm learning how to public speak. I'm getting better, hopefully, every time I'm doing it. And that's my journey. And I don't know where it's going to take me, but I'm going to have fun along the way trying it, because otherwise, like, I only have one life to live. And if I'm not living to my fullest, I'm going to live with regrets. And that's something I want everyone to do, is say, dream, go after it. It could happen in multiple ways. Don't get stuck on this. It has to happen this way. Again, there's limiting mindsets, but when we open up our mind, we realize that, there's 20 possibilities to achieve the same result. There's not just one way to do something. And whatever limitation we're putting on ourselves, remember, if you're thinking you need finances to run a business, Michael's going to tell you, no, you don't. You can start a business with $0, right? If you think you're going to need, this skill set, that skill set, whatever skill set that's going on in your mind, Michael's going to tell you again, no, you don't. You could use whatever you have right now and do it really well, and that's going to produce whatever results you want. But yeah, you have great coaches that are available to you that are going to teach you this. If you're limited in any way, that, hey, you know what? Let's just move you to the side a little bit. Let's just help you think a little bit differently, because how you are is perfect right now. And we can only get better from that point. And so learning that and just saying, hey, yeah, dream bigger for yourself, right? There's so many stories nowadays online of people that have overcome these thoughts. And it's all these thoughts that are just coming into our mindset and how they're achieving, the life that they're supposed to be living. And it's, again, learning that you are enough. And so that's what I want people to do. Dream big, learn that you're enough. Anything's possible as long as you put your mind to it.
Amen. Damon, I needed to hear this, needed to be reminded of this, and I'm sure a lot of our listeners did too. I encourage our listeners to go follow you, go to the YouTube, go to the website. There's a lot of good information on there, and I appreciate your time and wish you continued success.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for listening to Small Business Pivots. This podcast is created and produced by my company, Boss. Our business is growing yours. Boss offers flexible business loans with business coaching support. Apply in minutes and get approved and funded in as little as 24 to 48 hours at businessownershipsimplified.com. If you're enjoying this podcast, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and share it as well. If you need help growing your business, email me at michael@michaeldmorrison.com. We'll see you next time on Small Business Pivots.